another episode. I'm your host, Tamara Gady. I'm really excited about our discussion today. Is now the time for buyers? And I have with me a really special guest who's been a great partner and friend of Lawyers Title. But first, if you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's have a conversation about your title needs. You'll be able to contact me on any of my social media links that'll be posted in the comments below. I'm really excited to have Patty Newby. She is the loan designer, branch manager of Thrive Mortgage, and we're going to talk today about the market. Is now the time for buyers, and we're going to have a really great conversation about appreciation and inflation, all the wonderful things that everybody's talking about with this shift in our market. So welcome to the show today, Patty. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you. We've had a really great pre-podcast discussion, so I know today's going to be full of value. We're going to have a lot of content for you, and it'll be great information that my realtor clients can use with their clients. So let's get the show on the road.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, first question. Is now the time to buy a home?
I think is a great time to buy a home for so many reasons. Yes, interest rates are up. Let's just put that right out there because that's on everybody's mind. However, the inventory is still available. We are not having to compete with 20 and 50 and 200 offers. We are still getting into multiple offers, but home sales are still going on. So it's a great time to buy a house. We have to get the facts. We have to analyze it for each client and get the word out there that it is a great time to buy a house.
Well, we've seen a lot of price reductions. We've seen some additional inventory come on the market, less competition. So we've gotten those people out of the way, I think, that have really gone to sell their house because they wanted to capitalize on the biggest gain that they could. Yeah. Now that interest rates have gone up, they're like, ooh, I don't know that now's a good time to get out of what I'm in with my 2.5% interest rate and move to something higher. Yep. So talk to me, before we move on to the next question, I got one in the middle that I didn't tell you about, but I do that all the time. When you're talking with buyers, or you have a team, so when your team is talking with buyers, what are some of the objections or challenges that you're having to talk through with buyers right now because of the changes in the market?
So the biggest thing that clients want to know is what they can afford and what's the payment. And I can skip around if you want me to, but you didn't tell me to follow the script. So.
I know, I did, and then here I am with the question I didn't tell you about.
There are creative mortgage programs that we can do to help get the payment goals. And I will share with you that a lot of our clients, maybe like some of those listening, have debt. So it's up to us to ask the right questions, listen for answers, and come up with creative solutions. Like they may put less down, they may put more down. It just depends on what's going on with the total loan application. That's why it is so critical. And I know some loan officers out there give a client a rate sheet and a fee sheet and say, here you go.
Yeah.
We have not done that for, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is, a very long time. We sit there and really analyze the client and get into a financial strategy to save them money on the interest, hit their payment, and help them gain net worth. That's what it's all about.
Well, and that's part of the reason you're on the show today, to be quite honest, is because I bring people on that think the same way that I do, that feel the client service. It's not just about handing someone some paperwork and walking away. It's really about doing a deep dive into what their financial portfolio looks like. What can they afford? What can't they afford? Where are they with debt? Things like that. And so the way that you treat customer service, client service with your realtors, with your builders, and with your consumers is part of the reason why you're here, because I know that you are a giving person and you're one that wants to add value to people. So I partner with people like you intentionally because we think the same way about those things. So kind of the answer to the question is what people are concerned about right now is what is their mortgage payment going to be?
What's that payment going to look like?
See, everybody's focused on interest rates, and that's not really...
It's not relevant.
It doesn't matter. It's about what is your payment going to look like.
Because what happens if you have a 2.5% interest rate, but your property taxes keep going up, or your home insurance goes up, and they both fluctuate on an annual basis, and now you can't afford that home. If you can't put your head on the pillow and sleep at night because your property taxes went up, interest rate is not relevant. It's part of the equation, but you have to look at the entire house payment today and prepare clients for that property taxes to go up too.
And that is a huge concern. in this
Yeah.
because of what's happened in our market. We've had huge appreciation gains, and the counties are like, well, hello, it's time to increase.
Ante up.
Yeah.
But if you're not going over that detail, taking the time with the client and advising them up front, you're going to get the phone call a year later, why didn't you tell me this? We don't have clients that do that because we prepare them. You know, for all of our super builders that we work with and clients building homes, we prepare them for unimproved taxes.
Yeah, unapproved
It's
taxes on new
responsible
construction is a
thing
big
to
deal.
do.
And PID, PUD, MUD, SUD, all the
Yes.
things, right? So taking a really close look at what their taxes are going to look like is a huge,
Yeah.
big deal, because people have life changes too. They have babies, they get married, they, whatever the things are, their parents move in. And so their financial platform is going to change depending on what their personal situation is, and not being prepared for those taxes cause people to, there's people that we hear about right now that don't know what to do because their taxes have gone up significantly and they can't afford their house payment anymore.
And how do we help them proactively a year or two after they've been in the house get rid of their PMI without refinancing? We have programs about that today. Just talked to a client about 2 weeks ago. I'm like, no, this is all you have to do. And that's just advice that we offer even after the sale is completed.
So buyers that have completed a sale with
Yeah.
you will call you later and say, I'm in this situation.
Yes.
Do you have anything creatively that will help me solve the problem?
I tell a client, oh, now you're part of the designer family for life. You're stuck with us now, right? But that's part of servicing a client even a year or two later or 5 years later, just advising them in questions and really taking the time to ask, what are you doing with your financial advisor? Do you have a good financial advisor? Because sometimes people want to pay their home off. So we have a really cool program called Purchase and Refi Select. You can't afford a 15-year term? How about a 17-year term or a 22-year term? So we can go 8 to 30 years.
And I think that's one of the unique things that I hear from you all the time is the accessibility to programs that can solve consumer problems.
That's because
doesn't
I'm
matter
with
what the shift
Thrive
is.
Mortgage, been there almost 11 years now.
Have
and
you?
We just have a great culture and a super company that also allows us to do this.
Well, let's dive into some of the questions I actually did have on my script. Okay. But I reserve the right to come back and ask something that isn't on the script. Okay, so let's ask, have home sales fallen? Are we getting back to a pre-COVID market? Joe, let's cue up slide 2, or slide 1, because that's really going to help everybody kind of see what we're talking about.
So we've all heard conversations, oh my gosh, home sales are falling. We hear it on the media. So turn off the TV and ask the experts. Ask your realtor, ask your title company, and of course, ask your favorite loan team, the loan designer. But really, they have fallen. So think about what happened on the slide in 2020. 5.6 million homes annually, in the millions, 5.6 million. So a lot more than 5.6 million, 500 million, right? So yes, they have fallen in 2022, but after everybody got out of COVID, people went crazy, right? We wanted to get out of the house. We've been waiting to see homes. And so in 2021, home sales did go up. So we're just back to pre-COVID, absolutely. So is it a great time to buy a house? Yes. Is the sky falling? Absolutely not. So get the facts, turn off the TV, and then decide for your family, is this the right time for you to buy and sell a house? I know I have one of my own family members is in the middle of building a house right now. Is this a great time to buy a house? Absolutely. Is this rate locked? Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I think that something you tapped into is really interesting because we all know during COVID, especially shelter in place, we're all sitting in our houses and we figured out that, I need a second office. That became a really big design feature in new construction, or I need another bedroom or whatever it was, or I need another house separate from my spouse.
We've got some of that. Or I want to build a pool, but maybe it's not the best thing to go sink $100,000 or $200,000 in your backyard.
Yep.
So call your realtor before you start remodeling your home, and let's ask some questions and do some research. Cause sales to go up.
Yeah, a bunch of people had to analyze where they were at. It really made them kind of take a look at what kind of house they were in. But also, again, we mentioned this already, tapping into a super aggressive gain in the market.
Yeah.
A lot of people sold just because they wanted to capitalize on the gain.
Yeah.
And so all of that first slide I thought was really powerful because it did kind of make people analyze what happened in the last 2 years. It was super aggressive. Inventory was super tight. I'll take Broken Bow, for example. I was looking at properties up there. So glad I didn't buy up there 2 months ago. And I'm on a list of notifications for listings that go live, and everything is a price decrease right now. Yeah. And so what's happening in other markets is very similar to what's happening in our market. People are realizing that things have shifted because of the interest rate increase, and you're having to become a little bit more reasonable now, people.
Well, and there was also a big shift quite a few months ago between second homes and investment homes too.
Yep.
So that's been an additional shift because Broken Bow is just beautiful, but clients weren't used to paying the differences that have been impacted by second homes and investment homes, which was a substantial increase to the rate.
Yeah, you need to start looking. If you're looking at a second home or an investment home, you need to start looking at what pre-COVID numbers look like for occupancy rates, because we're going back there.
Yeah, but those interest rates have gone up even more on second homes.
And it makes your cash flow or whatever your profitability is going to be on those properties, it slices and dices it pretty good. It slices it a lot. So I've kind of pulled back and decided that I'm going to let everything settle and before I look at it again.
It's a great time to buy, even in Broken Bow. I'm going to talk about in the slide 3. I'll share with you why.
Well, let's talk about. Next question I've got is historically how have home prices compared to consumer price increases. So Joe, bring up slide 2 for us so we can talk about inflation a little bit here.
So everybody's worried about inflation, respectfully so, and everybody's worried about potential recession. Some people say we're in a recession. Some people say we're not. There's many different opinions on that. But the truth is, the last couple of years for realtors and for buyers has been really brutal. I had a client, one of my agents, 4 or 5 months ago. He said there were 380 people in a house and over 100 offers. That's brutal. And
wait a minute, 380 people went and looked at the house and it had
over 100 offers.
Gosh,
and, but we hear those stories all the time. And it is deflating to a client who's just moved here for a job transfer, or they need to move up, move down, or ready to buy a house, and they can't get a house, and they put multiple offers in. There's some tricks we help to do that we have to help our clients, but we still probably had 20 clients or more just say, give up, I'm ready to buy a house. So inflation is not good. Hopefully we'll get that under the control. But the Fed increase that happened a little while ago, the 0.75, was actually good. The government has got to get inflation under control. If they don't, we will go into a recession. So that rate hike was to start to get inflation under control. But it's a balancing act. They're trying to slow things down, but if they slow things down too much, we will go into a recession.
Yeah.
But let's look at the facts. So if we look at slide 2, what has happened in the last, when there has been inflation? Home prices have continually gone up. And for our Texas market, I think we're especially blessed because even when other markets around the United States over the last 10 to 15 years have shifted, Texas has been relatively stable, even going back to 2008. You know, we didn't have the high highs and low lows. We still had lows, but we recovered very quickly because we weren't some of the other states. But if we look at this, even inflation times, home prices have continued to go up. Now, I know in 2021, it says 18%, but in Texas, sometimes we're seeing 20 and 30%.
Yep.
But the truth is, I don't like to see a 20 and 30% increase in appreciation year after year because it's squeezing out our first-time buyers. You're right. It breaks my heart when we can't get them a home because, you know, $250 is so hard to get anymore. But if we are going to continue to want what we've had and it's 10 to 30% inflation, think about the property taxes. No one will be able to afford a house. So we're just getting back to normalizing, and that is a good thing. And for our sweet realtors that have had 100 offers to look at, and people going through the house, you know, there is still a national average of 5 offers per home.
Okay.
That's a great offer. April 2021 to April 2022, there was still a 23% national appreciation. There is to be in 2022 alone, not 12 months, just this calendar year, there's supposed to be a 9% in appreciation rate. So do I think it's a great time to buy a house? Yes, I absolutely do.
Well, and I really liked this slide quite a bit because I like seeing more normalized appreciation for the same reason that you just stated. One of the problems that has come out of the 2020-2021 market is that first-time home buyers can't afford homes.
Yeah.
And Texans were having a problem affording homes because Californians or the people from all over the place that have higher price point homes or higher standards of living were coming here with these bags of cash, and they were beating out Texas buyers.
Yeah.
And so we need Texans to be able to afford houses in Texas, and we need our first-time home buyers to be able to buy houses. Now, one of the things that, I'm hearing right now in the marketplace is that institutional hedge fund buyers are coming in and gobbling up all the lower price point homes, right? The 350, and this isn't on my script either, the 350 and below or 400 and below. And, that's a big concern because that knocks out not low income. I mean, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the buyer that can't qualify for what is now a normal price point home in Texas, which is probably about $500,000, right? We still need houses below 350, 300. We need houses in the 250 price point. But these big institutional and hedge fund companies are coming in and gobbling them all up.
I know.
So that to me is pretty scary.
Well, it is to me too. So most commercial loans, take your apartments, for example, are on 5 or 10 year arms, okay? Rents, from my understanding, are going up between 8 and 20%.
They are. I'm a landlord, and my property management company is encouraging me to
raise it up. Mm-hmm. So if you have big companies that are buying 100, 200, 500 homes, are we going to get into rent price fixing in the future? I don't know. But is that a good thing when half a neighborhood client wants to buy a home and it's owned by someone that owns 100 houses? I don't know. You decide.
Well, I can tell you this, as a consumer, as somebody who lives in a neighborhood, I'm concerned about the amount of rental properties that are in my neighborhood.
I agree.
Because traditionally landlords aren't capable of they don't take care of it like they do their own home.
Well, and you know what? To build a community, when I was first raised in a home, and we try and have this in our own neighborhood, we create a sense of community around the holidays and whatever, right? And do you know your neighbors? Are you watching out for them if they have a package on the porch light or if they left the garage door open?
Right.
And I think that when you have too many rentals in a neighborhood, you lose that sense of community because someone's coming and going quickly. So I like
Well, and we're seeing builders start to create whole neighborhoods of rental communities. I mean, at first there was a lot of negative, and I had a negative viewpoint of it as well. Of, why wouldn't they sell these homes? But, it gives people a place to rent if they need to rent, and that's what the neighborhood is designed for.
And those are great neighborhoods for that, right?
Yeah.
But you just got to be a little careful because anything in excess, just like too much pizza or too much pie, is not a good thing. It's excess, right?
Well, I like the fact that these appreciation numbers are coming down. I think that's going to shake some things loose for our first-time home buyers, because it'll stop these sellers from selling their homes because they're trying to capitalize on these huge gains, right?
Yep.
It'll put a stop to that. They got their gain. Be happy. Here we are. Let's kind of normalize a little bit, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what are appreciation values predicted to look like this year, next year, et cetera? I love this slide. So, Joe, why don't you bring up the next one so Patty can kind of go through it?
So again, it gets back to what we see more normalized. If we skip back about a decade or more, Texas, historically, way back in the early 2000s time frame approximately, we normally had about a 4% appreciation in the state of Texas, approximately. And I know areas, and depending on what price range home, it could be 1% in a jumbo luxury market, but all we're doing is getting back to normal. And I think that feels good. It feels good for our buyers. It feels good for our sellers. And I had a particular client, he was trying to list a house about $1.3 million. I was not familiar with his realtor. And he gave up. He said, my house didn't sell in a weekend.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to retrain consumers now.
We are. It's okay if your house doesn't sell in 3 days or 3 hours. Because if you're going to sell in 3 days or 3 hours, when you go to buy a house, you're going to have that much competition.
Yep.
I believe the average sales time nationally is 17 days. But what's wrong with even 30 days? Nothing wrong with that. And if we slow the market down just a little bit, we can buy a house, and I think consumers won't have to pay $100,000 or $200,000 over, even on a $500,000 house. So that's a good thing. Back to normal.
I like that too. My neighbor is my next door neighbor. I'm very upset with her right now. I'm very mad at her because she put a listing sign in her yard, and I don't want her to leave. I told her I'm very mad at you right now. But, we have a regular conversation because 24 hours after her house went live on the market, she was wondering why she didn't have any showings and why didn't she have any offers. And I said, here we go. It's time to educate my next door neighbor on how the market has shifted. And I said, we had a conversation on day 1, day 3, day 5, and I said, it could be 30 days in this market before you get an offer.
And that's
Things
okay.
have shifted, and that's okay.
But you also have to listen to your expert, which is your realtor.
Yeah.
Because I still believe that some people are thinking, ooh, I'll get 100 or 200 over. I'm going to list high. You got to list right.
You do have to list right. But you had to list right in that other market. Because if you overprice, the strategy was list it according to what the market says it's worth. Then you create that demand, and you'll get those you'll get those over ask offers. Pricing the house right is always the right strategy, no matter what market you're in, because a house is only worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it. If you overprice it, you're not going to get any offers.
And we have to listen to the experts based on the recent comps. Doesn't matter what happened in January. It means what happened in your neighborhood potentially last month or last week. The market shifted, so we have to pivot with that and listen to your experts.
Well, we saw this in 2018, Patty. We had a not obviously not as aggressive as the last 2.5, 3 years, but I noticed that in 2018 we had a really aggressive first, second, and into the third quarter, and then something stopped, right? And a lot of the conversations that I was having with my realtors are the same conversations that I'm having today with my realtors. The consumers don't understand what has happened yet. And so while we are privy to a lot of information within real estate because we are in real estate, it now becomes a heavy job for the realtor to help the consumer understand you're not going to get $100,000 over ask.
Yeah.
You may get 5 offers. It may be on the market for 30 days. Those sorts of conversations, and consumers are like, well, my neighbor sold their house.
Yeah. That was last week. This is this week.
And it shifted that fast.
Yeah, it did.
And so...
And rates are shifting that fast.
Correct.
One day we're quoting a client 6.5, 6.25, and the next day we're locking them at 5.5. So it's very challenging right now to explain to a consumer that you quoted one rate to, we do it, but it's still when it moves a 0.5 point or a 1/4 point in an hour, you've got to get that rate locked in. And sometimes it's taking clients because maybe a client's not ready or they can't find the perfect house. Might take them a couple months to find a house. We work to keep them updated. Hey, we've had a 0.5 point shift here, and requalify them. But it's difficult when consumers haven't seen rates in the 6s or above for years, 2006 or 8.
I do really feel for you and for my realtors because you guys are having to have some tough conversations right now about what reality looks like in this market. And it shifted so fast, and it just takes time for consumers to catch up and they don't understand yet. And I kudos to you guys for being honest. It's the ones that say, okay, well, we'll do it your way because they want the business and then it doesn't work out. And so I'm the biggest fans of the ones who are honest and realistic with their clients.
Be transparent and
about what this looks like.
It's about the relationship, Even if you lose a loan, at least you can sleep at night because you told the client the truth. And it's like, this is not the right time. Maybe you're going to lose your job. Okay, let's just wait till things stabilize and wait a couple of months. Or again, go ahead and lock your rate while you're out looking, or figure out something so that they're comfortable and that you're being forthright always.
I think that's going to serve you better in the long run, that's for sure. So do we think, I think we've already kind of covered this one. I was going to ask you, is Texas likely to drop in appreciation growth and to what? And so I think one of the slides kind of already covered that We were seeing 25, 26, 27% appreciation, and now we're going to go back down to something about 9%.
Well, and I sent you another slide, so if anyone's interested in that slide with the United States on it, even in a recession, very unlikely that Texas drops. You know, it was highly unlikely, I think is what it was coded as. But if y'all want that, just email, just get on your social media.
We'll make sure that everybody has your contact information.
Send it to you. You got it.
And look, we are really insulated here. And I noticed that. So I lived in Arizona from 03 to 09. I came back in September of 09. Ooh. And I worked for a group of financial planners. We worked with retirees. And so it was very difficult.
So Arizona was one of those states that got hit really hard in 08.
And let me tell you something. People were not shopping.
Yeah.
People were not eating out. There were sell signs everywhere. People were going and buying a house and walking away from their other one because they were so upside down. Foreclosures everywhere. Yep. The Western movies where you see the tumbleweed blowing through the town and there's nothing.
There was about 8 states that happened in.
And so that's kind of the image that I get in my head when I think about that time. And I moved back to DFW. This has always been my home. And I was flabbergasted. I said it a million times. I said, if you didn't pop your head out of DFW, you would not even know there was a recession going on. Yeah. Because people were shopping. There were new dealer tags on cars, meaning people were buying cars. I mean, it wasn't, just a free-for-all, but it was still a very robust market, and it was a stark difference from what I came from. And so I think that it's important for people to understand that, yes, DFW, Texas, we've been insulated from a lot of what's happening in the rest of the nation. And I think we'll continue because we still have corporations relocating. Caterpillar just made an announcement. They're coming.
All sorts of reasons.
There was another one. Goldman Sachs, I think, is coming now. TIAA is going to locate to the Star. TI is building 4 plants up in Sherman. They're bringing 40,000 jobs up there. I mean, look, we're a robust market.
Texas is a great state.
Texas is a great state. So I don't think that everybody needs to worry too much. When you start it is important to note that these are national numbers that we're showing today. And so DFW locally will look different compared to what these numbers are.
I believe it'll look stronger based on history. That's all we have to do is go by history. But it should be higher appreciation than the national average. But, that's to be determined.
Sure. We don't have a crystal ball. I understand.
Right?
I understand. You've kind of tapped into this a little bit, and I do want to expand on this with our time that we have left today, because you do have a lot of creative products that will help realtors with their consumers and help your consumers directly. You tapped into the lock and shop program. We have a seller buy down program. I want you to talk about some of these things.
Yep.
And any other product that you feel like is super relevant in this market that you're leveraging to help people.
Do you want to bring up the lock and shop
Yep.
flyer?
Yep.
So we actually have had this program for years, but we didn't need it. So we brought it back, refreshed it in Thrive style. We enhanced it, of course. So it's called Lock and Shop. We can lock in a client's rate before they have a home. It costs $500. I like the 6-month lock and shop, but you don't have to go that long. But I like a 6-month lock. It's $500, and we refund all of that money back to them as a credit at closing. Now, if they can't find a house in 6 months, we are going to keep their $500 because there is a real cost to that.
Sure.
But basically, it guarantees your rate. It costs you nothing if you buy, and if markets drop, we float that rate down to current market rates. So it's a good insurance policy, should give your clients some comfort, and also what it does is avoids fallout. What we call is fallout is we pre-qualify a consumer or a client with 5.5 or 5.75 rate, and they blink, and now it's 6.25.
Right.
Well, they're out looking. Now they no longer qualify for that home. So let's lock that rate in to give the client some comfort, and then we can float the rate down and get a better house payment if rates drop.
I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you think rates are going to continue to go up this year?
I think rates are going to continue to be volatile this year.
I like that word, volatile.
Because it depends what hour of the day we get in.
Yes.
A recession historically brings rates down. Inflation brings rates up. The problem is we got both going on at the same time,
Yeah.
so it's a balancing act. It's really important as a mortgage advisor and my team to watch the market, which we do hourly, and advise our clients when to lock and give them the comfort they need so they're not all stressed out that they're out falling in love with, a $500,000 house and it happens to be a Tuesday and now they can't afford it Wednesday morning when they get the executed contract.
yeah.
That's breaks our hearts.
I have no doubt whatsoever. I heard somebody outside of real estate say, I heard rates are going to go into the 9s this year. And I said, well,
We've seen 7 on our rate chart.
Yeah.
We haven't locked anybody at that yet.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's on our rate charts, I haven't even seen that since 2006. But it's still a great time to buy a house. So I was looking at analyzing it for clients. What's the difference between buying now and buying then? So I ran this example. I know we don't have a slide on it, but homes a few months ago, if you're out looking for a $500,000 home, you may offer $570,000 on the home or $600,000. So let's just assume for the purpose of this conversation, you offered $570,000 to secure that home. And today, because there's not as many offers, maybe you only have to offer $500,000 and close in 14 days, which, oh, by the way, we do. So you're saving $70,000 on the purchase of your home. In other words, your loan in this example would be $63,000 of less debt. Woohoo!
yeah,
less
that's
debt.
a big number. Absolutely.
Now, rates have gone from 4s to 6s. So just measuring over a 5-year period, you would spend about $8,000 more in interest. Is $8,000 more in interest unfortunate? Yeah, but it's still a great time to buy a house. But if you take the $63,000 of less debt that you have,
Yep.
minus the interest, you still
You're coming out
save
ahead.
$55,000.
That's a big number.
And I'll take that all day long. And even if rates go back up to the 6s, okay, low 6s, depending on the client's credit score, down payment, hour of the day,
Right.
let's say you only save $30,000. It's still a great time, and it may save you money to buy now versus even a few months ago when rates were low. So, love that. It's
That's
just
the
thinking
seller buy
outside
down
the-
product,
No,
right?
that's just analyzing
Oh, okay.
for clients whether they should buy now or is it cheaper to buy
Oh,
now
yeah, I'm
or
sorry.
later?
Yes.
Now, seller buy down.
Yep.
So the realtors that we work with, we try and help position for their listing too. You've sent some great stats out. Thank you for sending that. It kind of opened my eyes on how many price drops are going on.
Wasn't that interesting? I had her, the person who puts those together, I said, you have to add price decreases and we have to have current information.
Goodness, that was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I think in Collin County alone, the report you sent me out for the last 2 weeks of June was almost 800 price drops.
It's a lot.
So I was working with a client. Again, I did not know the realtor. This has been a longtime client of ours. And he was selling about a $1.3 million house, but this works with $200,000 or $500,000 homes. And I said, what's the first thing that I shared today was most important? Payment. Because rates have gone up,
Yep.
It's payment. So that's what clients want to know about. Well, maybe your $1.3 million, let's just take it with a $500,000 that's more reasonable. Maybe your $500,000 house, gosh, I can't afford that payment right now at, let's say, 6%. Okay, I can't afford it.
Yep.
So what am I going to do as the seller to make my home more attractive for a potential buyer? Okay, I could drop the price $20,000. That's going to have about $140 impact to the client's house payment. But maybe what I do, instead of take that $20,000 and I use a seller buy down strategy where I'm helping them buy the rate down to high 4s or 5%. Now I've changed their payment because it's not just about what a client or what a mortgage team can get a client approved for. You might be able to get it approved, but the clients can't sleep at night because they can't afford that payment.
Mm-hmm.
They really need a payment because of this. And we had this strategy for a client. They were a veteran, and they were taking care of their ailing, dying parents. And I said, we pre-qualified them, and she's like, we don't like that payment. So we got a little creative, and we used a seller buy down, and we got them into a rate that they could afford. We had to bump the price and do some things, but she's like, she called me, she was crying.
Oh, I
And
bet you get that sometimes.
oh,
Yeah.
it's a blessing,
When you have
right?
a
What we do.
success.
But she's like, this is the payment we want. And so we had a happy buyer, we had a happy seller, and we made that magic work by asking the right questions and using some programs. Some of these programs that I'm going to share have been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
But what's old is new again, and we've got to get out there and take the time to educate for the listing agents and buyer's agents and our clients to make all the magic happen, and that's what we do.
Well, and I think you tapped into something really valuable there, because what this program requires you to do is to work with the listing agent and the seller, which your client is typically the buyer
Yeah.
and the buyer's agent, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because we may not get anything for it.
Yeah.
We're just trying to help the seller get his house sold, his or her house sold, for what they're trying to achieve. That's all we're trying to do.
yeah, and I think that's it requires, and look, in this market, you've had to be very strategic and have a lot of conversations with your clients about what's happening, right?
Yep.
And so we're already trained to have an additional amount of communication. So this does require communication
Yep.
with the seller and with the listing agent and with the buyer and buyer's agent to help understand what this product is doing to help both parties succeed in this transaction, right?
And it's a little bit different. Hey, I'm selling a house, and you might be moving out of state, right?
Right.
And you're like, why are you a lender telling me how to market the house to sell? So we don't do that. We just say, hey, here's a program, and we have a very good technology tool that says, hey, you can use this, and if any of your agents want to see the house, you may want to share this with them. It doesn't mean they have to use us as a mortgage company. And the other thing is, I have another program in the seller buy down program. I don't have all exact numbers off the top of my head, but usually there's about a $50,000 swing at around $500,000 to $600,000 by using this. If a client has a payment goal of X and you use a seller buy down to get that same payment, they may not be able to afford your $600,000 house. They might have to go down to $550,000. So the agent, the listing agent, and the seller are losing potential clients, and that's a big difference if a family is trying to get an extra bedroom, an extra office between a $50,000 swing in a house. So we're putting this together for the agents we work with, and if someone wants more information on it, they can let me know. And then the other thing is a 2-1 buy down. So this is a program that's been around for years. We haven't used it much lately. But let's say your interest rate on a 30-year fixed is 6%. Year 1, it would be 4%. Year 2, it would be 5%. And year 3 to 30, it would be 6%. And I had a client say, well, what's best? You cannot just do a blanket statement on what's best
Sure.
for a client. So some of our clients, many clients, have some debt. So what are we really doing those first 2 years? We're kind of creating a fake payment, right? It's artificially low the first 2 years. So what are you doing with that excess money? So if you're buying approximately a $500,000 house, and we can save you $500 to $600 the first month for 12 months, can you take that extra money and pay down your debt? Year 2, can you pay down your debt? Is it possible, year 3, to get debt-free or almost debt-free, year 3, so that you can be comfortable in the house payment, but also you're freeing up interest rate. So you might be paying 6% year 3 on your mortgage, but gosh, now you're no longer paying 7-8% on your student loans. You're no
Right.
longer paying 25%
Right.
on your credit cards.
Yep.
But we're using the home as part of your financial strategy. And oh, by the way, if your debt's paid off, have you called your financial advisor? What should you do
Right,
with that
right.
extra money? Because it doesn't have to be all or one. That's why when we go in and design a loan, we really take the time to design the financial strategy to marry up with what they're doing with the rest of their assets.
Well, and I think that's a great place to stop for today. That is kind of the golden nugget to leave everyone with. Now is the time for buyers to buy a house. It's a great time to buy a house, but also let Patty and her team help you take a really strategic look at what your client's financial platform looks like, because she has a lot of creative ways for you to get your buyers into a home in a product that's really going to help them either with rates or with debt or a slew of other things that, again, can help solve your buyer's problems. So thank you so much, Patty, for being on the show today. It's always a pleasure to see you. And again, I really, really love that you think about things in this way. You take care of your clients. And so I have a big appreciation for you and for your team and our partnership that we share. So thank you again so much. You guys, I hope you got some golden nuggets from the show today. I think we had a really great conversation that you can use with your clients. And so if you like my content, again, you're really going to love my escrow team. Let's get a talk going about your title needs. Again, our contact information will be listed below. So please feel free to reach out to us. Let us figure out how we can help you. You guys make it a great day.